Dear Transition Automation customers, this is a little quick review about unpacking the PrinTEK machine when you receive it. It will come to you in a crate looking similar to this one here, and it'll be quite obvious how to take the parts out. When you are taking the parts out, you will discover first, you will discover this part here we call the riser. Okay? It will be upside down, I believe. The next is the tooling plate with the lock handle sticking out. The third item is the actual printer base shown here in the plastic. And the fourth item is a little spare parts bin and a little box with parts that you need. Okay, after you can remove the yellow bags from the different parts, and this will be what the base looks like. You probably want to set it onto the bench that you're going to be eventually using the printer on. Should be a good sturdy bench. Set it in the operating position. You can note that I've marked everything that needs attention and assembly with yellow tape, like these 3 zero backlash hinges and this front vertical height adjustment knob. And there's the riser frame laying with the top side up. It has a black rubber surface on it. Here's the tooling plate in the operating position. Although it's lying on the floor, you're going to assemble it to the printer. And this is the box that had the spare parts. There's a socket wrench, an Allen wrench, just a socket and an Allen wrench. There's 2 shaft collars. There's a theta contact bearing and shoulder screw. 2 stencil clamps. And these are stencil reference chucks that get mounted on the riser frame. So those are the spare parts. And this is a little kit that's used for tooling up your PC board. All the parts for tooling a board are on there. You should see some parts already installed on the tooling plate. The red and green are little stops that will allow you to create a nest for your PC board. So the first step is to assemble the tooling plate onto the printer. Okay, we're going to take the tooling plate as it's unwrapped. Line it up with the rods on the printer carefully and just guide it on. If you don't guide it on straight, some of the little balls can pop out. It's not critical, it won't hurt anything. You don't have to put them back in. And then slide the tooling plate on until the nest position. Okay, the next step is to get the riser. It's a little heavy, you might want to have 2 people. But notice they're vertical rods. There's one on the upper left and one on the lower right. You take this top frame and you lay it down on top of the printer, but make sure the rod goes in this hole right here. There's one on the front right and one on the back left. Lay the riser down, and that's a partial installation of the riser. Step is install your shaft collars to stop the tooling plate from coming off. They're actually a little bit at different positions, not to worry about it. Start with one. Show here. Lift your riser up. Now you can eject your tooling plate without it falling off. When it stops on the shaft collar, at that point you can put the other shaft collar on. And those two shaft collars will be lined up and stopping the plate. Okay, now I noticed this one can't go all the way forward, so this one's really the master collar and this one's the follower. So what I'm gonna do is bring it back. Okay, I see that both collars don't match up. It's okay, just put both collars on. It's only aesthetic that I have two collars on. But this one's just for aesthetics, but this one does the stopping. Okay, now the tooling plate is put in position. Stop it. Next step, you're gonna need a 5/8 open end wrench to go with the socket that we provided you. You take this theta micrometer contact bearing and you install it from the bottom going up with the nut on the top. The reason we don't put this on the machine, on the tooling plate during shipping is because it's kind of an important part, and if it gets banged, it can damage the printer function. That finishes the assembly of the tooling plate. Pull the tooling plate out at this point and connect the 3 anti-backlash springs. Remove the yellow tape and bring the spring, stretch it and connect it to the 1032 socket cap screw that's sticking down. These are very important to have high repeatability in your printer. And there's one more over here, Ira, if you could curl around. This spring was not the correct length, so I just bent it to make it a little stronger. But we can send you the correct spring, or you can continue to use it like that. That sets up the riser frame assembly. Okay, off. This is the stencil clamp, and there's 2 holes in the riser frame to receive these stencil clamps. I'm going to just show you the assembly of one. Push the shoulder screw through, use an Allen wrench on the top side. This is a locking nut. Put it underneath. Hold it with the pliers and tighten these stencil clamps. You can tighten it right up tight and the stencil clamp will still be free to pivot. That's one stencil clamp, and do the other side. Stop. Remove the yellow tape that's holding together these stencil reference chucks and keep it together. Notice there's a washer on the bottom and a washer on the top. Lay it down into the mating, I believe it's a 3/8/16 hole. Oh. Excuse me. Okay, that's one side. Okay, this is the other side. Okay, and that completes the setup of your PrinTEK machine. To our PrinTEK customers, I'd like to explain the tooling system that we're using on this now. We've upgraded the tooling to be a little bit more secure. We started off with magnetic tooling, but we found a different strategy is much more flexible and solid. We have a tooling plate with T slots, and we have an assortment of T nuts. You can see the cross section of these parts. And these fit into tracks, and you can essentially make yourself a nest. And there's a little tool included with the kit this Allen wrench tool, and it allows you to loosen and slide the T-nuts in the tracks. So what you do is you make a nest for your PC board using the outline, and we also have a second series that are spring-loaded, and it's still a little bit in refinement stage, so I'm including them here on this kit, but it's a very flexible system, and you can choose to use either a solid nest or a spring-loaded nest that allows you to pop it in. I just wanted to show you that so you understand what's in the kit. So we give you an assortment of T-nuts, and we also give you grease and Loctite in case you need anything to be secured or lubricated. Okay, that sets up the PrinTEK, and we encourage you to have a good time with it, and if you have any questions at all, you can call Transition Automation for assistance. Thank you. To my friends at Cox, please be aware this spring is a little stretched. It still works fine, but I'm going to send you a new spring. It's a minor matter. I have to spec that out a little bit more correctly. And then these other two springs are fine. Another thing to note, this is your height adjustment gadget, and there's a thumb screw on the bottom here that allows you to move this entire block to make gross adjustments. Let's say you wanted to do double-sided and you needed to move the stencil height up by 1/4 of an inch. You would move this by several teeth. And then there's also a fine adjustment if you turn the knob. We've set it into the middle, and we've set this in the right position for flat printing. That means like bringing the stencil down to a 1/16 inch thick board. It's set up at the factory, and I've also marked the gear rack with green lines so you know where that is. Also note, all the micrometers on this machine have double collars, and those double collars can be adjusted to get rid of any slop in the adjustment. So they're made to be a little stiff. If for any reason they loosen up and you notice these knobs getting a little bit sloppy, I recommend just tightening them with a pair of pipe pliers. But I've set them up tight now, and I did notice they loosened a tiny bit during the shipment, but I put glue on, I put Loctite on the threads, and I readjusted them. So you should be fine when you receive it, but I just wanted to indicate that as a maintenance item to take a look at once in a while. These should be very solid and strong, and that way you get very, very tight repeatability. Thank you. To my friends at Cox, here's another little thing I need to bring your attention to. On the bottom of the tooling plate, there's a pivot stop pin right here, and that pin is set off a little bit too much, so I included a shaft collar on here and a little spacer. Now I know it doesn't look nice, but I'm gonna send you a new shaft collar that's a little bigger, but it'll work fine as it is. But of course I don't want to have any duct tape on this machine, so we're gonna take that off, and I'm gonna ask you when I send you the new part, just slide off this shaft collar. You got to use an Allen wrench. Take away the duct tape. Remove the little spacer I have in there, and then put on the new shaft collar, and it'll be set to go. But for now, you can just leave that on there if you want to get up and start printing right away. Thank you. This is the Theta micrometer contact bearing and shoulder screw. There's a little bit of pink tape on here that keeps the bearing in position. I'm gonna send a I'm gonna send a split collar that I would like you to install on here in place of the tape. Okay, that was missing on this item, and it was actually not in the design, but we need it. So when you receive that, please remove the tape, take this off, and put the shaft collar on right where the tape is. It will keep the bearing down from popping up. Okay, thank you.